Hello and welcome to White Wonder. I'm Jack and you join me today at Ashey Station, which is of course a halt on the Isle of Wight Steam Railway between Haven Street and Smallbrook. Now I'm on my own at the moment, but very soon I will be joined by a very special guest to discuss what is a very important day for this station in particular. But first, I wanted to come here early and tell you a little bit about the history of this fascinating station and how it's changed over the years. Ashey Station was opened by the Ryde and Newport Railway as part of their line connecting the main hub of Ryde with the island's capital of Newport. Many of the intermediate stations on the railway, Ashey included, were situated a significant distance from the hamlet or village they were built to serve. The line itself is celebrating its 150th year anniversary this year, along with the long closed Isle of Wight Newport Junction Railway between Newport and Sandown. However, compared to the latter, which suffered setback after setback in getting the line open, the Ryde and Newport Railway's construction couldn't have been more different. Now the first bit of the line to be built was this section from Smallbrook through Ashey, and apparently progress was so quick that within 6 weeks they were already nudging the outskirts of Wootton. The railway surveyor in fact complained that the engineers were building the line so quickly that he had no time to buy up the land they needed. The railway bill passed through Parliament in 1872. And despite one or two minor setbacks, the line was open to the public by December 1875, with the railway running parallel but unconnected to the Isle of Wight Railways line from Smallbrook Junction into Ryde. Smallbrook, of course, is now the easternmost terminus of the Isle of Wight Steam Railway. But despite the fact that this line still exists, Ashey Station at least would have once looked significantly different to how it looks today. Now when the railway actually opened, two runaround loops existed on the line, one here at Ashey and one further down the railway at Whippingham. In fact, the two stations were very similar in design and layout. If you look at this early photograph taken in the Isle of Wight Central Railway days, you can see the extent of the loop and the platform, such an extravagant design for a station so isolated in its surroundings. But if you look closer at the photograph, you can see what appears to be a spur to the left at the bottom of the loop. Now this spur is rather interesting because once upon a time Ashey actually had a branch line and a second station. Now this may seem like an odd place for a branch line, and it certainly is. But this line did exist, and more so, it was opened at the same time as the main railway itself. Although now it is long gone, you can still see clearly the shallow railway embankment which would have carried the line around the curve alongside the hedgerow. Now the railway itself was built initially to serve a chalk quarry that was cut into the side of Ashey Down, and you can actually see the remains of an old railway tunnel which once took the line under Ashey Road. It wasn't actually until 1882 that this second station was built on this branch line, and it would have been a very simple affair, probably just a wooden platform, but it had a very specific purpose. I've come now then about halfway down this hedgerow which once paralleled the branch line itself, and down that way you can see the curvature of the branch line as it joins the main railway. If you look to the south you can see a little cluster of trees where the tunnel mouth still exists and it leads into what was once the chalk pit. But more importantly, about here was where the second Ashey Station once stood, and right next to it over there would have been a rather large grandstand, because the purpose of this station in particular was to ferry people to and from the races. Horse racing at Ashey began in 1883 and became a popular destination for racing fanatics. If we look once again at the map, you can see the outline of a course depicted in the neighbouring field. Today, unless you were specifically looking for it, you wouldn't know it was ever there. And the same could be said for the branch line. So what happened to it then? Well, in regards to the railway, the chalk bit was closed in 1900. And in 1907, the section between the pit and the racecourse was lifted. As for the racecourse itself, the grandstand was gutted by fire in 1929, putting an end to racing at Ashey. Certainly it was at this point in time when the branch line disappeared. Returning to Ashey Station though, and apart from the amalgamation of the Ryde and Newport Railway Company into the Isle of Wight Central Railway body in 1877, nothing much had changed since its construction. This was of course until 1926, when the installation of a passing loop at Haven Street meant the ones at Ashey and Whippingham could be removed. In Ashey's case, the loop itself was severed at the western end to become a goods siding. By this point, platform 2 had been somewhat removed and the only one left was on that side to serve the passengers. Of course, this was the era of grouping, and the Southern Railway, who now ran the line, were keen to cut costs where they could. So in 1927, despite the original station's grandeur and status, it was downgraded to an unstaffed Halt. Despite this downgrade, the platform itself was extended for the use of larger trains. The 1926 platform section is indeed still visible today, although it hasn't seen a train for many a decade. This is due to the various land movements that happened in the 1950s, which distorted the ground around the platform. And it was because of this, Ashey Station would once again change in appearance, the line through platform 1 being removed and rerouted through the former platform 2. And it was at this point that the new Halt was constructed, the very one we can still see today. Enter the 1960s then, and the station was a shadow of its former self. Long gone was the passing loop, the double platforms and the branch line, and in its place was a small Halt with a little hut. But of course, very soon this wouldn't matter anyway, because something else rather substantial was also about to disappear. With 4 of the island's railway lines already closing in the 1950s, it was only a matter of time before the others fell to the clutches of Dr. Beeching and his infamous modernisation plan. The railway from Ryde to Newport was, for the most part at least, still well used. But despite this, on the 21st of February 1966, the end came. And both the Ryde and Newport Railway and the onwards section to Cowes were closed to passengers. By the 1970s, the track had been lifted and the station building boarded up. The whole area was left neglected and overgrown. Thankfully, however, it wasn't long, as you could probably tell, until the railway returned. In 1971, a hardy group of rail enthusiasts and volunteers formed the Isle of Wight Railway Company, what would essentially become the Isle of Wight Steam Railway. In the early days, the Heritage Line would operate only on the 1.5 mile section between Haven Street and Wootton. Very soon though, work began on extending the railway back through Ashey to Smallbrook. After years of hard work in 1991, and with a bit of help from Network South East, an interchange station was constructed at Smallbrook, and trains began operation of the now 5.5 mile Heritage Railway you can still see today. The final cherry on top of the cake came in May 1993, when Ashey itself was officially reopened to the public. And today it remains open as a request stop, using the Halt that was constructed by British Railways in 1961. Naturally though, there is an elephant in the room. The Isle of Wight Steam Railway may have a beautifully restored Halt here at Ashey, but the original station building has remained in private ownership and out of reach for the railway. That is of course until now, because as of today, the Isle of Wight Steam Railway officially own Ashey Station, and they have big plans for its future. To get an insider look then at what the future holds for Ashey, I've arranged to meet up with Marc Morgan Huws, Chief Executive of the Isle of Wight Steam Railway. So Marc, thank you very much for coming to meet me today. I know you're a very busy man. Exciting day for you today and the members of the Steam Railway. So what are the plans for Ashey in the future? What have you got in store for us?
So, I mean, I think the first thing is, we had to buy it, didn't we? It's the missing bit of the jigsaw in the railway, and
yes,
for today we've got it, and it's taken us quite a while to buy it. So that's where we are today, and before we sort of start to move forward, and I think just buying the station has been really, really significant. It's been in our strategic vision since the start.
Yeah.
Going forward, we're launching a fundraiser literally today off the back of purchasing it.
Right.
That's to return that side of the station with the buildings in it, to get the platform restored again, to get the buildings restored to 1926 condition. It's an era in which we can, if we want, put the passing loop in later and it will still all, blend into
right,
that
because
era.
that's what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Because obviously that you've got, so you did mention to me you have stages. So stage one, I presume, would be the building.
So stage one's buy it.
Right. Okay. So stage one's buy it. So stage one you've done already. Then
14-month stage. Stage one's buy it. Stage two is to restore everything on that side of the line, up to the platform edge. So it's to completely restore the station buildings. They need a lot of work doing to them, but to put it back so that all the doors and the windows and the entrances and the signs and the plant pots and the watering cans, everything is 1926. This is an almost unique opportunity. It's really rare to find such a large rural railway station, but to find one that hasn't been messed around with too much, so we can put it back to that very original condition. And if you just look around you, there are no roads, there are no industrial estates, there are no housing. So it's almost unique in Heritage Rail in being able to recreate something from that period.
Absolutely.
And wherever you look around you, it will be genuine. So that's phase two, the signal box, which we may well need in the future.
Yes, you were showing me that earlier. So the signal box is on that side of the building.
Signal box right down at the end. Then the waiting rooms.
Yes.
So our plan is to restore those as they would have been in 1926. The rest of the building, though, the middle section was the station house.
Yes.
And then there was the storage goods area at the end of it. So our plan is to turn that into a really good quality holiday let.
Right.
That's because we've got to pay for this incredibly expensive station and restoration.
So 1926 then, obviously that was around the time that you had double track here. Are you thinking of reinstating the siding then and moving the track, the running track, back over to where the station, the original platform 1 is?
So we're going to be really practical about what we're doing. So phase two is very much about dealing with the property. We get the property secured, renovated for the future, the holiday let to get the income, the public rooms looking as they should, the whole thing looking right. We've picked 1926 because it is the last year in which the passing loop was actually used. Of course, the passing point for the line moved up to Haven Street.
Yes.
After that, that gives us the option, keeps all those options open for whatever might come. To phases 3, 4, 5, 6 or whatever. So essentially phase two is the bit that secures the investment that we've made in the property, gives us a return on it, restores it all to 1926 genuine condition. Look, I am sure there are people out there already planning out what the loop should look like, what the branch should look like, and there's no money at the moment to do anything else. But
to altering the track, the
all
line.
options are open in the future.
Okay,
and I'm sure there will be people who will want to do all sorts of things.
Well, that leads to one more, because I know a couple of my subscribers will be asking this, and I probably know the answer to this anyway. So in the future, is there even the minute possibility that the branch line might be reinstated?
I'm going to give you a politician's answer to that. Okay, look, if you look back to 1966, 67, 68, who would ever imagine, you know, that the bogies and the O2 would be in Haven Street, and then in 1971 the railway would be running between Wootton and Haven Street, and then the two terriers would turn up, and then, you know, the extension back through Ashey to Smallbrook. Who would ever have imagined that? Heritage railways are all about dreams. They're not logical things. People didn't sit there in 1965 and go, do you know what, if we just dig away at this for a couple of years, it might take us 2 years, 5, 10, 20, but we'll have a heritage railway. Heritage railway is all about those dreams, isn't it?
Yeah.
We deliver dreams, don't we? And actually we have to deliver dreams to carry on, because that's why people join us, volunteer for us, come and visit us. The current board and me as the chief executive, we're just the custodians of the steam railway. It will go on. It has to go on, doesn't it, forevermore. Anything is possible. We don't own it at the minute. We don't own the land or the line, but you know.
Yeah. Okay, so it's a possibility.
If you dream,
yes,
it
absolutely.
can come true, can't it?
Well, if it does happen, I'll get some nails and a hammer, and I'll build you a grandstand. How about that?
And I might hobble down a Mazuma frame to
yeah, it might not be a good grandstand, but you may not want to climb on it, but you know, we'll see. But yes, okay, wonderful, that's fantastic. Thank you so much, Marc, for coming and having a chat with me today. And if you have any more questions, make sure you put them in the comments, and I'm sure Marc and I will meet up again soon, and I can ask him your questions. Great news then for Ashey Station, and I will be following this project closely as it progresses in the future. But for now, thank you very much for watching. Massive thank you to Marc for meeting me, and of course everybody at the Isle of Wight Steam Railway for their ongoing efforts in preserving Isle of Wight heritage. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, then please do like and subscribe. We also have a collection pot link in the description below. But for now, thank you very much for watching, and we will see you again very soon. Take care.